Hi, I'm Don. Why should you select me or my training programs over others? Well, let's give a bit of a brief history. I've been in the game for 48 years. Now, not 1 times 48 years. For example, I've not run the same 5 or 6 programs year after year for 48 years, heaven forbid. And yet I take my hat off to those teachers who have stuck with a particular grade or a particular standard for many, many years. Same syllabus, just different learners or different students. I'm in the training business, not in the teaching or education business. A bit of work history. I started as a teacher both here and in England, and then I worked in the motor manufacturing industry. My experience in training there was on the industrial relations side, training people to chair disciplinary inquiries, etc. This was in 1970. From there, I went into retail. First of all, into the department store side of the business, and later I was transferred on promotion into the supermarkets, where I became the group training and development manager. It was the largest supermarket chain in the southern hemisphere. So yes, it was challenging, and after a period of 12 years in the motor industry and then in retailing, I was offered the chance to go on my own in 1982. This came about with some financial backing from a very large American advertising company called Ted Bates. And incidentally, I ran quite a few programs in America, which I'll discuss later on. In terms of versatility and or the word experience, from the training point of view, I think you should consider experience like the bottom of an iceberg. The 8/9 of the iceberg is below the surface. You only see me here 1/9, but to call on my experience over the next few months or few years would just be fantastic, and I would love to share a lot of my experience with you. In which areas do I have experience? Why am I so versatile? Why do I think, and I'm sure I can actually help you in your specific type of business or industry? Well, I've worked for 10 major financial institutions, from banks, building societies, and incidentally, a pension and broker division of our country's largest insurance company. I worked for 3 hotel chains. I've worked for 1 very large restaurant chain. Also on the hospitality industry is 2 4-star hotels, complete training from the general manager right the way through down to the lowest level employee. More experience? Well, I've had 18 major retail clients. Now, these retail clients have sold from automobiles to fashion, from jewelry to liquor outlets. And on the manufacturing side, experience, 57 major manufacturing companies that I've consulted to and trained with. This is from the mining industry to liquor to sweets, the pharmaceutical side, many, many years, even to ready-mix concrete, and of course the ubiquitous Coca-Cola. Other businesses, there are 13 of them. I lectured for quite a long time at major universities, business school. I've worked for many years and still am involved with tourism. I worked for a company of publishers, which was most interesting, and many, many service stations, or as we say in America, gas stations. I have worked for them as well. What is important here is that for every one of these clients, I have produced specific case studies and in many times video or DVDs showing their actual business. That's why my unique selling position, or my USP, has always been your partner for training. I don't replace training. I become your partner and complement the training. So I have, as you've seen, I've had experience in many, many fields. I can help you. There's just no maybe about it. I recently saw somebody advertising a selling skills program. And what they had written there was, this selling skills program will satisfy all your selling needs. Well, I do query that. For example, if one looks at selling skills, they have what we call, you have product-centered selling, you have client-centered selling on the other extreme. Product-centered selling is where you are involving with a customer. Client-centered selling, involving with clients, you're selling a service. So you have product or customer service selling, product or customer-centered selling, and on the other hand you have client or service-centered selling. Two very, very different sets of skills, like rugby and football. But also on the product-centered selling, you have the simple product-centered selling, like somebody going in and buying a bottle of milk and a newspaper and walking out, paying for it and walking out. That's a simple transaction. Also on product-centered selling are the big ticket items, expensive clothing, a lounge suite which costs a lot of money. Those two, the complex and the simple, require different types of selling. Why? Because they have different objectives. The objective of the simple product-centered salesperson is to maximize your sales in the shortest possible time. If you go in for a 2-litre bottle of cool drink, and they don't have, but they have 1-litre bottles, you're quite happy to pick up the 2 1-litre bottles and pay for it and walk out. It's more complex with the big ticket items. So your objective with big ticket item sales is to maximize your sales by providing your customer with exactly what he or she wants in the shortest possible time. The other extreme, as I mentioned, is the client or service-centered selling. Now there again, we go from a simple type of selling, for example, selling advertising space. It's not a difficult thing to sell, but what you are selling is a promise. It is simple, and your objective there is not just to sell advertising space, but it's to establish a business relationship with that client in the shortest possible time. You deliver the goods, the advert works, they get a return on investment, you've got a client, a long-term relationship. The more complex though, where you get into the insurance fields and dealing with very, very tough clients or vendors in negotiating skills, retail for example, your objective is very different. There your objective in the complex client service-centered selling is to establish a business relationship profitable to both parties over a period of time. You take out life insurance, you will only know when it's too late whether you've made a good decision or a bad decision. You work on trust. So to say one selling skills program will satisfy all needs, I have my doubts. I have 48 years of experience to say I have my doubts, and I will justify that you actually have 4 different types of selling. They have different objectives, therefore they have different skills. Okay. Right now I have available online, and available if you can contact me on the on your computer, is 16 programs. And let me read them to you just to give you an idea of what I have available to you. There is the customer skills program, product-centered selling, service or client-centered selling skills, as I mentioned. I have retail negotiating skills and ordinary negotiating skills. I have a supervisory development program for first-line supervisors fairly new to the position. I then have an advanced supervisory program, much more complex. I have the total sales management system, from interviewing to performance management to coaching skills for sales managers. I have the interviewing and evaluation skills program, which is already online. Then I have the 9 modules which comprise the advanced management program. I run a communication skills program called the General Principles of Communication. For managers and supervisors in line positions, I have the complete performance management system for them. Then, of course, there are the coaching skills for these managers and supervisors in line positions. Selling your ideas for staff management. It's not easy to go to a boss or a peer and say, look, you have to use my program, or you've got to use my idea. How do you sell that idea to them? Well, we've developed that program over years. Problem solving. Simple and complex decision-making systems and procedures. Okay, so that's just a range of the programs that I currently have available. There are other areas like mentoring, etc., and telephone skills or dynamics, where you might want more information. Contact me on the email. I just think it's a nice touch to mention, though, that there are many charitable organizations in all these years of mine, like the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, a couple of hospices, some retirement homes or old age homes. I have worked with these people, and I've done it for free. I do it just as a payback for all the hard work they put into society. You know, recently somebody advertised a coaching course, and they advertised the situation that they were going to be training in, and that was for the poor performer. Now again, through my experience, I know that coaching is very, very different. It's not just the poor performer. If you want to maximize the productivity in your organization, I'm sure you do, then you need to focus not only on the poor performer and bringing him or her up to a level of competence. You need to grow those people who are already competent to above competent, to moving towards the excellence. And there you need to motivate the consistent performer, the above average performer. So that is another coaching skill altogether, or situation. Incidentally, with selling skills, there are 5 coaching situations, not 1, not 2. You also have a pre-call discussion. If somebody is going out to see a powerful resource or a new customer, you have a pre-call discussion, sales manager and sales rep. There are times that the sales manager will go out on joint calls. That requires very specific strategies. Whether he's gone out or not, if you've had a pre-call discussion, the 5th coaching skill necessary is the post-call review. How did the call go? What would you have done differently? What worked for you? Okay, so coaching depends on the type of industry, whether you're in the manufacturing or you're in the sales. I have the strategies and the skills and the case studies for you. Now, when you are in the property market and you're looking for a house, there are 3 critical criteria that you are looking for to satisfy, and it is called location, location, and location. Well, I believe on the training side, my motto to you would be those 3 critical criteria would be experience, experience, and experience. I thank you for sharing your time with me. I do hope and I trust that I'm going to hear more from you, and I can be available to help you to grow yourself in your career. And do remember, I will be your partner for training. Thank you, and goodbye from Don.